If you look at the ANC's roots, it doesn't make any sense that this party would be ardent anti-Zionists. It is no secret that virtually the entire intellectual force behind the ANC and South African Communist Party, before these two parties took over South Africa in 1994, was Jewish individuals. It's also not far-fetched to assert that the ANC would have never gotten to power had it not been for these individual skills in the propaganda war, domestic and international. Furthermore, almost the entire Zionist Jewish community in South Africa since the 1930s, before the State of Israel even existed, was a close ally of the ANC. Notable individuals include Baruch Hirschen, one of Nelson Mandela's earliest advisors at the University of Witwatersrand and leader of the Habonim Zionist Youth Movement, later Secretary General of the South African Communist Party. Joe Slovo, also a member of the Habonim Zionist Youth Movement, and by far the most important person in shaping the ANC's radical ideology. His wife Ruth First, journalist and first editor of the Habonim newsletter that later became the SA Jewish Report. Arthur Goldreich, member and actually one of the founders of Umkhonto we Sizwe, the ANC's armed wing, who also was a member of Palmach, the pre-state Israeli military, and Harold Wolp, another Palmach Israeli pre-state Israeli military member and Habonim member that was convicted at the Rivonia trial but later escaped alongside Goldreich. Yet, despite his thoughts shaped almost entirely by Zionists, fighting and being arrested alongside members of the pre-state Israeli military, South Africa's first black president, Nelson Mandela, almost immediately turned against the Zionists when he became president, making one of his first state visits to Yasser Arafat and praising the Palestinian people's right to their state. And he began the slow purge of Zionists from the ANC in 1994 already. Today, the only Jewish members remaining in the ranks of the ANC are those who espouse ardent anti-Zionist sentiments, like for example Ronnie Kasrils. Somehow, South Africa's ruling party go from being shaped and ultimately kept alive for decades by Zionists to openly backing a militant Islamist movement dedicated to Israel's destruction. If this doesn't make any sense to you whatsoever, like it did to me before I did the research, watch this video because the explanation really is stranger than fiction. Ever since Hamas came to power in the West Bank, the ANC has been one of its greatest allies. In fact, the official policy of the ANC states that the Palestinians should have their own independent homeland from the river to the sea, because this is the only way they can be liberated from the oppressive regime of the Jewish government in Tel Aviv. Every single ANC president from Nelson Mandela in the 90s right up to Cyril Ramaphosa has been vocal in their support of Palestine. Nelson Mandela even once claimed that his own liberation struggle would never be complete until the Palestinians are liberated from the Jews. But this was not always the case. As I mentioned, in fact, during the ANC's struggle against apartheid, many or even most of the organization's most prominent and influential supporters were Jewish Zionists. So what happened? While the founder and the first president of the ANC, John Dube, was greatly influenced by African American Christians such as Booker T. Washington, all Christian influence on the ANC faded into oblivion by the 1940s, when it allied itself with the South African Communist Party, which was, for the most part, led by Jews who have fled to South Africa from anti-Semitic regimes in Europe in the 1920s and 1930s. Perhaps the most influential of these was Joe Slovo, who was really the brains behind Nelson Mandela. Slovo was born Jossel Marshall Slovo in a small Latvian town in the 1920s, fled with his family from the agrarian nationalist government of Latvia at the time to seek refuge in an apartheid South Africa that was far more tolerant of Jewish people than almost any European nation at that point. Inspired by Leninism from a young age, he joined the South African Communist Party and would serve as a member of its Central Committee for decades. This was the top decision-making body in the party, and through his close friendship with Nelson Mandela, he was instrumental in establishing and solidifying the alliance between the ANC and the South African Communist Party, which ruled South Africa in coalition with the ANC since 1994 and still today. Both his parents-in-law were founding members of the Communist Party, and his wife, Ruth First, also played a major role in supporting the ANC by means of her work as editor first of The Guardian and then later The New Age, who were both openly communist South African newspaper. The South African engineer Dennis Goldberg, on the other hand, was another prominent Zionist communist who was, alongside Mandela, a co-founder of the ANC's militant wing, Umkhonto we Sizwe, who was imprisoned along with Mandela and Goldreich and the others we named earlier in this video, but following his release in 1985, he fled to London, where he became an influential campaigner for the ANC's cause in South Africa. Goldberg's parents were also lifelong communists who had fled anti-Semitism, first from Lithuania to London and then from London to Cape Town in the 20s. Up until his death in 2020, Goldberg remained an honorary member and veteran of the Central Committee of the South African Communist Party. So why, despite all of the support from Jews, and specifically Zionist-aligned Jews, many of whom fought in the Palmach, the Israeli pre-state military, Nelson Mandela, when he eventually was released from prison during his first international tour, met not with the politicians in Moscow or even Washington, who had financially and logistically supported the ANC's struggle for decades, mostly on the back of the propaganda that was created by many of the ANC supporters overseas. No, he met with none other than a man who at the time served as the chairman of the Palestinian Liberation Organization, Yasser Arafat, who would of course later become the Palestinian president. Arafat was among the first foreign dignitaries with whom Mandela chose to meet, and this raised quite a few eyebrows both in South Africa and internationally. In fact, in early March 1990, just weeks after his release from prison, Mandela met Arafat in Lusaka, Zambia. Here, Mandela compared the ANC's struggle against apartheid with the Palestinian struggle against what he called Israeli apartheid. Mandela declared, like us, he is fighting against a unique form of colonialism, and we wish him success in this struggle. Adding that, if the truth alienates the powerful Jewish community in South Africa, that's too bad. Arafat approved, noting that both the governments in Pretoria at the time as well as the Jewish government in Tel Aviv represented racism and colonialism. Mandela also fervently maintained this stance as official ANC policy once he took power. And as the president of South Africa distanced himself from the Western powers and the Jewish friends that had supported him and the ANC for decades, by publicly declaring in 1997 that we know all too well that our freedom is incomplete without the freedom of the Palestinians, thereby equating the struggle against apartheid with the struggle against what he called Israeli apartheid. And even after Hamas came into power in 2006, Mandela's ANC not only maintained its pro-Palestinian position under the leadership of Thabo Mbeki as Mandela's hand-picked successor, but even increased their vocal support for Hamas's militant struggle against Israel. In 2012, the ANC's National Conference officially adopted a resolution to support a boycott of Israel, the same way that it had supported a boycott of the apartheid government, stating that it unequivocally supports the Palestinian people's struggle for self-determination as victims of Israeli apartheid. President Cyril Ramaphosa has also continued this policy, stating that the only solution to the conflict is a free Palestinian state independent from any Jewish rule. By means of their strong identification with the Palestinians, the ANC completely forsook the Jewish lobby that was effectively responsible for getting them into power in the first place. It has completely sided with Hamas, a terrorist organization that has been using the very same methods that the ANC used in their militant struggle to try and garner sympathy of the Western world. Just like the ANC, Hamas has launched an aggressive international propaganda campaign specifically aimed at convincing the international left that despite the terrorist atrocities they continue to commit and despite the thousands upon thousands of lives it costs, they, just like the ANC, are the true fighters of freedom and equality. This is also why the ANC so closely associates with Hamas. Mandela's ANC, like Hamas, committed some of the most atrocious acts of terrorism, which they have managed to justify in the eyes of the world by means of their propaganda war. A fine example of the modus operandi these organizations use just happened to be on full display on social media this week, when a page dedicated to ANC propaganda made this post about 5 so-called anti-apartheid activists who supposedly were persecuted and killed by the apartheid government. The truth, however, is that these men were responsible for murdering no less than 5 people. In their unprovoked attack on a road construction camp, these men burnt one of the workers, Derek Thompson, to death in his own caravan and hacked to death Norman Grobler, another one of these workers, alongside his wife Elizabeth and their 2 teenage daughters, Edna and Dawn. This is why they were sentenced for murdering 5 people, including 2 young teenage girls, in the most brutal and inhumane way imaginable, not because they were so-called freedom fighters or anti-apartheid activists, or because they opposed apartheid. And yet the ANC has for decades twisted hundreds of these and other similar acts of sheer diabolical brutality by their own supporters and their allies, and falsely presented them to the world as acts of liberation, garnering sympathy with the left in Western countries, just like Hamas is doing right now. And like Mandela's ANC back in the day, Hamas has been very, very successful in its propaganda campaign over the past 2 decades in convincing the left, and also now increasingly the right wing as well, that the Israeli government is colonial and racist, and that they supposedly embody liberal ideals such as equality, which, whether true or not, should in no way, shape or form justify the terrible atrocities committed by both Hamas and the ideological bedfellow, the ANC, which rules South Africa today. And so, despite the fact that Jews have been so instrumental in building up and supporting the left in the United States, that very left is now turning against them, with only 13% of Democrat voters now standing with Israelis against Hamas. Take a look at this.
According to John Fetterman himself, his Zionism puts him out of step with the rest of his party, which, I'm sorry, only 13% stand with Israelis against the Palestinians. This is a party whose grassroots is right now captured by the left. And so Zionism does not have a future in the American left. The Democratic Party's relationship with Zionism depends on whether it's willing to repudiate that far left. And the thing that makes this so appalling is that Jews built the left in this country. We built the labor movement. We broke the New Deal. 70% of the lawyers who worked on civil rights cases were Jews. We've been at the forefront of every liberal and leftist issue in this country. The absolute chutzpah of saying, you're not welcome here. You know what it reminds me of? When they banned smoking in bars. I was a smoker, and I was so outraged. I was like, if there's going to be a turf war over this, surely the smokers should have gotten the bars, okay? And you can so easily imagine a counterfactual in which the left in America said, wait a minute, We can't oppose Zionism because we would lose our beloved Jews who have been there with us at the forefront every minute that we built this movement. We have to find a way to make sure that Zionists still feel welcome. We could never do that to them. And they didn't do that. They did the opposite.
What happened in South Africa with the radical left forsaking its Zionist friends and supporters is now happening exactly the same way in America as well. And as the global left turns against its own historical benefactors, the question inevitably arises how this will impact and shape the geopolitical landscape going forward. Not only in terms of the relationship to Israel and the Palestinians, but in terms of future geopolitical alliances that are bound to be formed as a result of the fact that Israel not only lost its support among the ANC in South Africa, but increasingly with every single left-wing movement in every single Western country in the world. Political parties who for the most part unanimously and also almost unconditionally support Israel at this stage in most Western countries will be forced to modify their stance because they cannot do what the people don't want them to do, and specifically the people who vote for them don't want them to do. So the fact that Israel is now starting to become a pariah, both on the left, for which it had been a pariah for decades, and also increasingly on the right in most Western countries, will definitely mean that the same thing that happened in South Africa with the ANC will follow inevitably in Western countries. Here at the Willem Petzer Group, we never shy away from exposing the real truth behind earth-shattering political developments such as these. So, if you found this video interesting, you can check out our recent video on Joe Slovo, the Marxist intellectual we mentioned earlier in this video, who was the real mastermind behind Mandela's rise to power. If you want to know more about that, click on this link right here and watch our video. And remember to become a member of the Willem Petzer Group. Without your support, we cannot change the hearts and minds of people. So simply follow the steps on the banner underneath me to do so. Goodbye and God bless.